So the first question is, why do we put the symbol of Om before we take the name of the Lord, or before we take the name of a master? The important significance is that Om is the omnipresent cosmic vibration. We are all part of that one Om. And even the Ucharan, or when we say the word Om, the syllable Om, it has its own auspiciousness, it has its own power, it has its own sacredness, and we are directly addressing the omnipresent intelligence, the omnipresent power, which has brought all material creation into existence. So we are calling upon that power, and then we are focusing on one aspect of that divinity, which is represented by a particular guru or by a particular form of God, or your Ishta, or your Kul Devata, or whoever you think is your ideal. So that is why, by putting Om in the beginning, you invoke the presence of the infinite state of existence, and then from there you bring it to the sagun form of God, which has come to you in the form of master or your guru. And that is why it is very auspicious to start with Om. Also, you will find that we end with saying many prayers or mantras. We end by saying Om, Amen, or Amin. And why do we do that? Is after we have said our prayers, then we like to deposit that prayer in the etheric omnipresence. By chanting Om after a prayer, we kind of stamp it into the infinite. We project it into the power of Om, and it is the power of Om that has created everything. And therefore, it kind of ensures that some fruition will come out of that prayer. It does not mean that if we do not chant Om, that the prayer is not going to be answered. Any heartfelt or deep prayer is answered by the Lord, because the Lord is always present and always hearing us. But just by putting that auspicious sound of Om in the end, kind of gives it more power. It gives it flight. And the prayer can become more effective, the mantra can become more effective, and God's name also can become more effective, because Om is the divine mother and in a sense the creator of this world. So that was one question that I received. Another question was, what do you mean by even-mindedness? And how do we practice even-mindedness? What do we say? Do we become blank people with blunted emotions? Do we become robots when we say that we should be even-minded? Or what is it that really means? It simply means this, that whether you have happiness in your life or you have sorrow, whether there is pleasure or pain, whether there is success or failure, whether there is praise or criticism, in all of these circumstances, which are opposite poles of the same dual existence, you stay centered in yourself. Means you do not become an emotional victim to these circumstances. Rather, you are master of your emotions, and you do acknowledge the presence of these situations in your life, but you do not sway away from your calm center and the bliss of your own existence. And this will help you to navigate through life without drowning into the ocean of samsara. And that is why Guruji said that practicing even-mindedness is the first duty of the yogi. And this, we help. How do we practice this now? Now, important thing is to know and accept that this life is going to be ever changing. And therefore, whatever difficult situation or even good situation that has come to our life, this will pass, this will change. So my reaction to it will only add to my involvement with this cycle of birth and rebirth. Therefore, calmly from a distance, like becoming a third person in yourself, watching it from the bird's eye, you watch the various waves come and go. They will arise and they will cease, but you stand at the beach watching the waves come and go in yourself. So that is how you approach the rising and the falling of various things that come to you. And important thing is to transcend the ego, means taking life impersonally, not just thinking all the time that I am the sufferer, I am experiencing all this pain, why am I suffering, why is this happening only to me, everybody else is enjoying their life but I am suffering here and God is not interested in me, and what about me, and so I, me, mine, that's all I'm worried about. When I transcend the ego and I see my life impersonally again, from a third person point of view or a bird's eye point of view, then I will just analyze it as, and I will ask, what is trying to happen here? Instead of saying, why is it happening to me? Because know that you are only a fraction of infinite cosmos. And do not give so much importance to one body and mind that you are playing right now. You have played infinite roles in previous lifetimes, and for many, these roles will continue in different ways. So the current role that you are playing is an ever-changing reality. It is very temporary and transient, and this is not who you really are. Then therefore, you must recognize and go towards your spiritual values and ideals and towards the truth. Therefore, you will be able to center yourself even in the midst of storms. Only when you are on the side of truth, when you are synced with and harmonized with the eternal truth of your existence, will you be able to handle these waves and tides of emotions, of happenings that happen in your life, and stay even-minded and centered. Once you're even-minded and centered, then you can smile at this drama of life. And then actually the purpose of our existence, which is like education and entertainment in this drama of life and realizing who we are, only then we will be able to easily accomplish that goal. So that were the questions that I had received. If there are any other questions, Captain Joy, you can please read them out.
Yeah, we have few questions. I would like to ask, as the aim of human life is to attain God or be one with God, then it's soul who actually attains God and not this body. So does soul is also affected by the sense actions as a body does, like fear, anger, ego, etc.
Okay, that's a good question, that who is suffering and what is the soul, and does the soul really suffer? So the answer to that is soul is a part of spirit and ideally it is not touched. That is why what Krishna is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita, the soul is not touched by all these things that are happening to the body and mind complex. The soul is infinite in nature. The soul is not killed. It cannot kill. It cannot be burnt. It cannot be wet with water. And therefore, it is also not affected by all these things that are happening. But then why do we say that the soul is caught up and suffering? It is because once the soul from spirit, it descends into matter because of the effect of the cosmic hypnosis or Maya or the magical measure, it starts to identify itself with the temporary body and mind. It is this false identification of the soul with the body and mind that it starts to believe, it becomes the little ego, and it starts to believe that it is the victim of all these circumstances and all these sensual things that are happening or whatever is happening in the mind. He is so lost in the body mind complex that the soul forgets. It doesn't have the smriti of its true nature, and therefore this is ego complex is what that really suffers. The soul identified with the body and mind appears to be suffering, but actually the soul is untouched. And when the guru comes in our life, he shows us the mirror and tells us that you are this soul. So Krishna is like a guru in this in the Gita, and he is telling you that you have forgotten that you are the soul which is untouched, and you are only identifying yourself with the little body mind sense complex. So you must withdraw your energy from that and is get established in the soul, which is never suffering. It only appears to be suffering because it is caught up. So free the soul from its identification. It's a false identification that is there, and we need to break that with our meditative techniques, with karma, bhakti and gyan, and we will know that we are always free, we were always free. Once we come to that realization, all the past actions also, we know, you can see it as a drama and you know that you are always free. Okay. Any other question?
Next question is, as per scriptures, there are 84 lakhs life forms a soul has to pass through before being born as human form again. Is it true before every reincarnation of the soul?
Okay, so it's supposed to be a mathematical formula. So there is no way I can intellectually testify to the fact that there must be 84,000 births. But yes, it is, if we have discussed it in a previous class, and if we use a common logic and a sequence of finding our ascendant. So all of us present here, we said all of us have mothers, and our mothers had their mothers had their mothers. So if we just continue that sequence and to find out, let's go reach back to the stone age and say whatever souls were existing in bodies also had mothers. But what before the beginning of humankind? Now they also had mothers in some form. So something cannot come out of nothing. So let us say the first human being in the stone age had a mother, probably from the animal kingdom. And then if we continue this, tracing back this origination of the DNA or whatever energy, magnetic energy, that field that we think of, if we trace it back, we find that the first land animal would have had some predecessor as a water animal, or and then of course all the entire evolving process we have learned in our science. So what I'm trying to say is, eventually this will go down back to the plant kingdom, this will go back to the rocks, and so on. So if the spiritual books, scriptures say that we have been coming from all those backgrounds, then it is possible that we have existed in all those forms, even in rocks, in plant kingdom, in the animal kingdom, and now we are having human bodies. And let us remember that all these are only garments. The soul remains the same. It gets identified with whatever garment it is wearing. So yes, we would have worn these bodily garments for many incarnations, and before that the other kingdom garments as well. So yes, it is very logical. The lives that we are leading, we can only understand this unless we understand the law of reincarnation. We cannot justify the life that we are living right now. The differences that exist in the world cannot be justified. So this is one law of karma and reincarnation which can actually scientifically explain to whatever our intelligence can understand what is happening, why it is happening, and where this is going. Otherwise, there is no explanation. And of course, because of we do not have the smriti like the great avatars had, like for example, the Buddha could completely in detail, he would tell that when I was a tree, this was the situation, when I was a tortoise, when I was an elephant, when he was. And master, what does Yogananda says? He says, I remember all my lives from the time I was a diamond. So we know that the avatar's statements cannot be falsified, and this is a truth. And here we are. But the point is, it does not help to intellectualize that we have had so many incarnations. The point is, what are we doing right now? Only the present moment is important for us. Do we find that we are happy in this moment, or we are not happy in this moment? Very simple analysis. And if we are not happy in this moment, then what shall I do to become happy, happier, and blissful and unconditionally happy? And from there, therefore, the scripture will now come in. The guru has come into your life. So work with the present moment. Forget the past, forget the future. Be in the now and work with the now. Do moment by moment what needs to be done. The rest of the intellectualization is actually of no use. It will not relieve you from your sorrow and suffering. So there were many questions that the Buddha refused to answer. And one of those questions was the one you have asked, like, is there infinity? Is there eternity? Is there a God? He refused to answer all those questions. He would remain silent. And he said, ask yourself, will the answer to this question, will it relieve you from your sorrow or suffering or not? And if no, then there is no point in going in all this intellectualization and theology. Do what will take you out of your present state of suffering. And that is the real knowledge, the real wisdom, and the real guidance.
That's all for today.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody. God bless us all, and we shall meet each other next Thursday. Jai Guru.